This is episode 27. Getting your WordPress website to load fast can be very tricky, and Google PageSpeed Insights tool doesn't always make it any easier. Welcome to the Calm Marketer Podcast. My name is Kenneth Fong, a digital marketer on a mission to help businesses thrive. I'll bring you on my marketing journey where you'll get to learn from my experiences as an INFP navigating an extroverted world and get actionable marketing tips for your business. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. Last night, I was in this huge rabbit hole for about 3 to 4 hours on my affiliate website, trying to figure out how to make it run faster, how to make it load faster. I'm not sure why I decided to go into this huge rabbit hole, but I just found something online about page speed and I was digging into it and trying to figure out, how to fix my page speed. So initially, I had a score of 32 for mobile, according to the Google PageSpeed Insights tool. And I was able to jump it up to 72. That's a pretty over 100% jump with a higher page speed. So a couple of things that I realized. First are the plugins that you use. The plugins that I specifically used that was really dragging my page speed was the Add This social media plugin. Now, social media plugins, the share plugins are many times bloated and they load really slow for sites. And Add This was one of those. And I found that particular plugin to be slow because Google PageSpeed Insights mentioned that as one of the resources that were holding up the site. And so I went ahead and I removed that plugin, and so many things changed. The page speed score increased. I noticed physically the site load faster on my phone. And I also noticed that the images above the fold were loading quicker too. They didn't jump around because before my images were loading and they kind of jumped up and down while they were loading. And I always wondered why that was. I was so confused why it was like that. And it was because of that plugin. So I Googled and I found a couple of plugins. Initially, before I added the Add This plugin, I was playing around with the Add to Any plugin. So Add to Any is a social media share plugin. For some reason, I had it, but I didn't turn it on. So I turned it back on and it was much faster and it didn't impact my page speed like the Add This plugin. So if I were you, do not use the Add This plugin. Use the Add to Any plugin. Test out different social media share plugins that work for you, and definitely go with the ones that make your site load fast. Another thing that I noticed was if you the way you render your fonts is really huge too. So I was using Google fonts for my site, and they were hosted by Google, by the third-party hosting. So Google was calling out, my site was calling out to the Google servers every time my site was loading, and to pull those fonts to have them load on my site. So what I recommend is you should self-host your fonts and preload them. So you self-host them by uploading the fonts to your site. So what I did was I went to the Google font website and I just downloaded the fonts into my computer, the TTF files, right? So download the ones that you are going to use don't download all of them, only the ones that you want to use, and then upload them to your site. That way they are added to your hosting. And once you do that, you should preload them. So I use the SiteGround optimizer. So my site is hosted under SiteGround, and they have a page speed WordPress plugin that optimizes the site. And the SiteGround optimizer has an option to preload fonts. So what I did was I added links to those fonts in this SiteGround optimizer, and just doing those things for the fonts and changing my social media plugins helped improve my score from 32 to a 72. So I think, after playing around with different ways to improve your score, you can really, really make huge impacts to the score. And I was trying to make tweaks and, going into my rabbit hole again, trying to maybe delete some text, reduce the size of text to improve my LCP, which is the largest content paint, and also my CLS, which is the cumulative layout shift. I'm having huge struggles with the cumulative layout shift. And it's funny because whenever I make a slight tweak, if I change the size of my text, if I remove something, my page score jumps up and down dramatically. At first, I think my page score was an 89, and then I did something and it jumped down to a 72, and my CLS was a different score. It was a 0.17 before, now it's a 0.38. So the page speed insights tool is very, very sensitive. It's very finicky. Any little change you make will drastically change the numbers, drastically change the data. And it's kind of frustrating because sometimes when you do what they recommend, it actually reduces the score. So one of the recommendations was to preload key requests. So Google is telling me to preload the font modules.ttf. So it's another font set that Google is telling me to preload. And I did that, but my page score actually went down. So I actually took that out. I undid that. So I am not preloading this modules.ttf resource. So you just kind of have to play around with it. Sometimes if you do what Google says, it actually will, reduce your overall score. So really, it's a game. You got to test it out, see what's working, see what's not working, and you really need to go into this huge rabbit hole, spending hours trying to improve your score. And it's definitely tough. It's kind of addicting trying to see what works, what doesn't work, but at the same time, it takes a lot of time. And I was doing this up until the late hours last night, and I can tell you I did not get that much sleep because of this whole thing. And honestly, I don't know how this will really affect my, my desktop score is an 85, which is good. My mobile is a 72. So I don't know. Maybe if I have some time later today or right now after I finish this podcast, I'm going to go and play around and see what I could do. But it's a huge time suck, and you got to just see the pros and cons. If you have clients that want to improve the site speed, definitely look into the plugins that are available. Some plugins that I recommend are WP Rocket, WP Super Cache, WP Super Minify, and the last one is OMG to host your Google fonts locally. So yeah, try those out. I'll add them into the show notes. Test those site improvement WordPress plugins out for yourself to see if they help out. If you have SiteGround, try to test out the SiteGround optimizer. It helps for me. So see what you could do with that. So with that said, hopefully you thought this episode was helpful. With that said, I will see you on the next episode.